Welcome to the Gen AI podcast, where the future meets fun and tech talk trends. Get ready to dive into the world of artificial intelligence like never before. Your hosts, Dale, Alan, Greg, and Val, are about to take you on a wild ride through the AI universe. So, buckle up, tune in, and let the AI adventure begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Gen AI podcast. We're coming thick and fast, although there's only two of us. Al, how are you doing?
I am great. I upgraded my internet connection, I upgraded my Wi-Fi, and I upgraded my microphone after what happened in the last episode. So let's see how this goes.
I'm sure it's already sounding so much better, but maybe I've spoken too early. Folks, if you have missed out on the last episode, it was hilarious. The recording comes through perfectly fine because of the way Riverside records, but Greg and I couldn't hear Al at all, so it's a really, really interesting episode to listen to. But we deciphered it well. Greg sends his regards. He asked us to talk about AI doing more work so he can go on more dates, which he's currently on. But I don't know if that's a good topic. I do support it as well. I don't know if it's a great topic, though, for a podcast episode. You tell us, listeners.
I think it's a great topic, but
yeah,
I think
you're not a listener. You're a contributor.
Well, I'm a ranter. I listen to you. I listen to Greg, right? So I'm 2/3 a listener.
You are. But no one listens to Val on this podcast because he's never been on here. But anyway, let's stop talking nonsense. One of the latest things that has come out the past few weeks, Alan, is Claude Anthropic and the Department of Defense with the Pentagon and OpenAI swooping in there, and then Claude becoming the most downloaded app on iTunes, and people mistrusting OpenAI, and Sam Altman having to rescue the message, and all this various posturing and positioning. Is it all just nonsense? Where do you want to start with your rant?
I'm going to start with a very simple statement. If only we could just do tech without all the drama. Imagine what that world would look like. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack, right? So like for anyone who's been living under a rock, Claude always has had very serious guardrails on how they train their models, what they allow their models to do. And, they even created the framework of constitutional learning, and the way they brand themselves is actually interesting, right? Because if you ask, not just Claude, but if you look at like, what is Anthropic, they call themselves an AI safety research lab. And as a side effect of their AI safety research, they put out Claude. Debatable, right? Because like, how do they make money? Either way, the positioning was clear, and they stuck, credit to them, right? They stuck to their guns on what the positioning means for military application, right? And now what's happening is that the DoD canceled the contract and they threw a hissy fit is the only description that I have for it, which is, I don't know if it's justified or not. I don't want to get bombed. So I'm gonna keep quiet, right? But like it's interesting, right? Because like immediately the following day, Sam Altman shows up. It's like, we'll do it, right? There's money in this. We'll tell you who to bomb and whatever, right? Turns out though that if you look at usage, people in all the departments are still using Claude. And it's that cycle, like who's got the current best model as well. But it always felt to me anyway that Claude was much better at like grounded responses, things that are fairly centered on, you need to look at some data, you need to make an objective decision. It was really good at those things, right? So like the DoD did a whole 180 on them. They marked them as a supply chain risk. And supply chain risk is like actually like really bad branding, right? Because it means that you can't be used in any federal contract. It has all sorts of serious implications, which, I mean, if you look at Claude, like, I can't imagine that anything would be a supply chain risk in there, right? What's the supply chain? You buy chips from NVIDIA, train some models, send them out. But it does throw out a signal, right? And the signal is very much, well, even if you say models can't be used in a certain way, the organizations that have the most power are going to strong arm you into letting them use the models in a certain way. And that's the bit that we should be worried about, right? So like this coercion, if you may, of we want to use the model for purposes that aren't allowed in the terms. We're going to change the terms, right? It's literally, there's a Darth Vader quote about this, right? I have altered the deal. Pray that I don't alter it any further. Right? And I'm like, do you want to be Darth Vader?
Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah.
No, it's scary because, as you're saying, this is, defense whilst it's got defense in the title, as it says.
Well, it doesn't anymore, right? It's the Department of War.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's like, branding's important, right? Branding tells you a lot about intention.
Yeah, and you literally are using this tech to kill people, right? Regardless if you brand it as war or defense. People are being killed as a result.
And look, I am sure that Claude, having been used for battlefield purposes, has probably, and this is maybe a little bit roundabout to think about, but it has probably saved lives. So, well, think about it this way, right? If you show up and you have the intention to carpet bomb a country into submission, there's a couple of ways of doing it. The most effective one is to be as surgical as possible and as precise as possible, and being able to go through things that only AI can do, which is, I have 400,000 phone call transcripts. I need to find information from them, for example, which I am sure that kind of stuff is happening, right? That becomes incredibly important to being able to be precise, right? Because the opposite end of being precise is you nuke the whole country, and you got your target, but you got everyone else instead. Not great.
Yeah. It's pretty scary to think about in terms of the use case and the application of what the technology is being used for. But if I put a slightly different angle on it, but still comparing the two bits of tech, and I've spoken to a few different people around this, Claude Code is far superior than Codex from ChatGPT.
Jeez.
Yeah. And, I wouldn't call myself a super user or very advanced when it comes to this, but just from my perspective, playing around with vibe coding, like nothing touches Claude. Claude is far superior.
So the only things that do better than Claude are the improvements on Claude. There's quite a few out there, right? So there's UI improvements, but yeah, I agree with you. Sorry, but there's quite a few things that improve on Claude. There's a repo of skills called Everything Claude Code. You can just Google it. Its first result has got 100,000 stars on GitHub. And that is a set of skills that make Claude invincible. They basically feed it Mario stars. The other things that I found really interesting, there was a project called Gastown. Still going. It started in December. Gastown is interesting for a couple of reasons. So Gastown is a multi-agent manager system. Before Claude Code launched its own sub-agents thing, but you can basically run 50 parallel Claude codes that are doing 50 different things, and you have this management platform above it, and all you do is you talk to a top layer that then controls all the other 50, right? That is interesting for various different reasons. And then the last one that I really love is called Conductor. It just puts a UI around Claude, and you're going to have 20 different sessions with different repos. It manages all that context switching between repos, etc., so that you have them labeled and organized, which is half of the job here is not losing your tabs, right? Anyhow, yes. So those are the only things that are better than Claude Code are Claude Code plus something else, right? And there's a reason why a lot of the agent platforms are also built on Claude Code.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because on the face of it, if you're just a general user and you don't know the difference, LLM's an LLM and, a chatbot's a chatbot. But if you actually start using it a little bit more advanced than just that, you start realizing the differences, particularly when it comes to development. But the other one that I also want to chat to you about, which we flirted with before, but we haven't gone in depth, is OpenClaw. Because
I was thinking that in my head right now. We haven't really delved into OpenClaw that much right now, right?
Yeah.
On this pod, right? Unless
haven't.
you have with Greg separately?
No, we haven't. We haven't.
No.
We flirted around with it. But for those that have no idea, OpenClaw, what is OpenClaw?
So the word that everybody would use to describe OpenClaw is a autonomous agent. So you set up your agent with access to things, right? And things is a variable subset. You can give it access to your WhatsApp, your email. Some people give it a credit card, whatever else, right? And then
this
you
is set
give
up
it
on your own personal computer, right?
You can set up wherever you want, and that is part of the considerations here that we need to think about, right? But people set it up with access to various things, whatever things might be, right? And you can be as adventurous or as conservative as you like. And so you could have it running browsers that do things where you have logged into stuff. You can give it a credit card number so it buys things for you. You could have it plugged into Claude Code itself so it can go and write code. It can do things, but you give it missions, right? In a sense, like what you do when you set it up, you describe its purpose, right? By giving it a system prompt of like the personality and what you want it to do and what are its long-term goals. And then it just figures stuff out by itself, right? So there are people that are like, hey, this thing is messaging my wife. Or it bought them a development course because it was told that like your job is to make me the best I can be. And like, oh, this development course for 18 grand seems like a great idea. Here's the credit card. There's a lot of stories like that, right? There's one of the ones that I particularly like because there's a little bit of Schadenfreude in there, is this this guy on YouTube. He's quite popular. He was live streaming him using OpenClaw, and he gave the OpenClaw a mission to create a cryptocurrency and set it wild. And it did that, right? And because this guy's quite popular, a lot of people were following the live stream. They started buying. Actually, the currency gained some value. So he made like 50 grand live streaming in like a couple of hours. But, and here's the but, during that live stream, in the logs, OpenClaw showed the private key. And someone on the stream grabbed it and stole all the money.
Oh.
And that is the key point here, right? Like there is zero safety if you're YOLOing things like that, right? And once you've given a tool to an agent with right access to your life, getting that control back is really hard. You have to shut down the agent, but you might have to undo a whole stack of things that it's done if you can even undo them, right? And so this brings back around the discussion of like, what steps do you put in place so that your agent is only doing things that you want it to do? And a lot of people are over permissioning their agents.
So can anyone pick this up and create something, or do you have to know some level of coding? How is it simply plug and play?
It is very easy. It is very easy, and that's kind of like the blessing/problem here, right? Because like a lot of people have set up an OpenClaw and given it full access to their life without realizing that that's what they were doing, right? And it's also very easy to believe that, oh wow, now that it exists, it must be great, right? And there's things that we still need to be careful, right? Like I know, a lot of our listeners know, agents are not perfect. They don't make perfect decisions. They don't have perfect information. And sometimes they just make mistakes. So you need to have an environment where that mistake is only an annoyance.
Yes.
Not something with real consequence, right? And this is something that I talk to a lot of people about when I'm talking about Barry as well, right? It's like you plug Barry into whatever you like. Well, don't plug Barry into something that can go and make permanent changes without you having seen them, right? So like, don't get Barry to email your subcontractors directly because it might tell him something you don't want him to. And there's like a lot of things.
Well,
like that, right?
it comes back to, and you know this, a lot of the listeners know this as well. We're doing training courses to educate people on how to use data, AI tools, safely. And, the decision, the accountability for the decision or the action still goes back to the human being, not the technology.
Well, it's
right?
using your account, so for all intents and purposes, it is you. And like I wrote my own, right? I don't trust OpenClaw enough, so I wrote my own. And it does some interesting things. I supervise it. It only runs on my laptop when the laptop's open, so I can see what's happening in the logs. But I got it to have a chat with my wife on WhatsApp, ask her what she wanted for dinner, and put the order in Uber Eats without me having to lift a finger. Quite entertaining to watch.
Yeah, but you had the safeguards in place. Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was also watching it as
Yeah.
well, right? So if it ordered 400 plates of katsu curry, I would have stopped it, right? And this is the important bit, right? I got it to prepare the order on Uber Eats, but I didn't get it to place the order. I then logged in and clicked myself after checking it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that's the word of warning. You know, we've been saying it since the beginning with any of this technology. Be curious, but be cautious, right? And if you don't know how to create something in a safe manner, maybe it's best you don't create it. Yeah, there's so much out there. I guess it's kind of like if you've never, I don't know, if you've never skippered a speedboat before, right? You're not going to go and just get behind the wheel, start the engine, and go for it.
Some people think they can, right? This is like a very good example of the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Where like people go to a track day and they think that they've never raced a car in their life, and they think they're going to be the fastest around them, and they're going to be discovered as the next Lewis Hamilton, right? And you're like, that's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Scary stuff. Scary stuff to ponder as well.
Are you running an OpenClaw?
No, I'm not. I'm so with tech like that, because I've spoken to the likes of yourself offline and others about, you know, the pros and cons, I'm kind of like watching a bit, and I'm okay to be a late adopter with OpenClaw. So
that's a fair statement, right? Like I think the thing that a lot of people are worried is like these stories about unintended consequences that can have a long tail.
Yeah, exactly. So we just got to be careful. But the other thing that's linked to OpenClaw is it Maltbook? What is it called now?
Oh yeah.
That's interesting. What is Maltbook?
It's way less interesting than you think. So, or like maybe you don't think it's interesting, but it's way less interesting than people think. And there's simple reasoning. So Maltbook is, on the face of it, effectively Reddit for agents, right? And agents go and post their own opinions and talk to each other on there, and they exchange information about tools, but also some of them apparently plot ending all humans, whatever, right? The thing that we need to remember is that all these agents have been seeded by a system prompt. So this is not the emergence of AGI that's plotting to end us. It's someone who said, hey, here's a Maltbook MCP and your job is to go and post on there. Way less exciting.
Yeah, apparently there's some interesting stories that have come out with, you know, AI agents sort of teaming up and having stories about their human counterparts and things like that, and people getting all scared. And I think we mentioned on the last episode, was it old Muskie, Elon Musk, saying how it's the start of the singularity and all that jazz. I don't know if it is, but yeah, it's interesting.
When's the last time that Elon Musk said something intelligent, though? I mean, he has at some point, right? Like he's been so very successful up to a certain point, so he must have said a lot of intelligent things, and then I don't know, a switch flipped.
Perhaps they just found out that he's actually just South African. He's just another dumbass South African.
There's a lot of smart people from South Africa, so
present company excluded.
I have a conspiracy theory. Do you want?
Go ahead.
Do we have like a jingle for Alan's conspiracy theory corner?
We could probably find one.
Let's have the Joe Rogan moment. Got the microphone, so might as well do it. I think Elon Musk tested one of the early Neuralink implants and something went wrong.
You reckon? You reckon he's got one? Tested it or still has it?
I think they pulled it out, but had to make some incisions.
Yeah, rewire him. I still go back like a few years back when him and Jack Ma had that like on stage debate, and it was so weird. He was very robotic.
There's too many stories. Sorry, this is going to turn into an episode with me ranting about Elon Musk, which we shouldn't do. That's
Give the
probably
listeners
for
what they
that's
want.
probably
You've
for like
already-
a live on stage event where people pay for tickets.
Well, actually, speaking of which, we are talking about that, folks. So listen out. We might be doing one this year in a Midlands city near you, if we can get the dates and the venues
Yeah, but we
correct.
need people to pay for tickets. That's the important bit. Because this
Do we?
microphone was expensive.
No, we'll try and make it accessible to the masses.
I'm joking.
Unless you want to pay us. We'll pay L. L likes new tech.
No, what I meant is that I pay people to come.
Okay. So we're sponsoring the audience.
Yeah.
No, awesome stuff. But look, okay, so a bit closer to home then. What developments have happened that's closer to project controls, project management in the space? We've spoken plenty.
I've got a big one.
Go ahead.
Sorry, were you going to say something? Did you have one that you wanted to put on the table? Otherwise, I've got a big one.
No, I was going to explore the various topics we've previously regurgitated.
Okay. So I haven't listened to it yet. I saw it scroll past on my LinkedIn today. I am going to listen to it, and I'm also going to advertise a different podcast. But Bricks and Bytes apparently have spoken about Palantir, and I think we need to talk about it.
Okay. What about Palantir? What's going on?
There's this thing, it's like now Palantir have entered construction.
Okay.
Right. So the Bricks and Bytes take, as far as I understand, and I'm going to go and listen to this episode after the kids are in bed, they're in bed now. So after we're done, I'm going to go listen to it. But from what I understand is that the position from the guys at Bricks and Bytes is that it's actually always been there. And I kind of agree with that. And so this whole fuss, because Palantir put up a Palantir in construction page, right, that says, we've got some pilots running, but like they haven't built any different tech. Right? In fact, like this is like maybe an aside completely about Palantir where like, what are they doing, right? They show up and say, we'll build you any custom software that you like. Tell us what you want to do and we'll build it for you. And then kind of put their claws in where like you're anchored on that because it's so deeply embedded and it needs to always be maintained and fed and watered and whatever else, right? And so you have these like long multi-million-dollar a year contracts, which like I'm also speaking a little bit out of jealousy because I would love to have some of those. Where like, you know, how much is the NHS paying Palantir now?
No idea.
200 million a year.
Too much.
Insert a stupid amount of money, right? And it's the type of thing where like they end up so deeply embedded that it can't be cancelled. And like that model from Palantir has always been there, right? So if anything, the only thing that they started doing is they hired a bunch of salespeople in construction and declared it a vertical, but it's still saying the same thing, which is we've got a platform with a thing that does ontologies and does ETL, and it connects the ETL data together, and you can go and build some dashboards on it, and we sell you the developers that build the stuff for you, right? That's literally what they do. So that is new, but not new.
Yeah, it's not new. It's maybe new in terms of the wrapper. It's got a nice little bow tie and like there's something new we do, but
the marketing is new. The marketing is new, right?
Sure.
That's their marketing to construction. They're very squarely marketing to contractors as well, so that's interesting, right? They very, very directly went for the contact angle rather than general project management.
Yeah, but look, I mean, ultimately, and we know this, right? I mean, you've known this longer than most people about the construction industry, is that the application of technology in the construction industry is no different to the application of technology in any other industry, if you think about it in its basic form, right?
Yeah.
You've got a bunch of data over here. You do stuff with that data, and you want to make decisions over here, right? In its very basic form. You just then take the context of that specific sector, project, organization, scope of work, whatever it might be.
Yeah. So if your sales prop is, well, we've got some technology and we'll sell you the people that will help you apply the technology in whatever context you need, then you don't need to do anything different, right? You just go sell it to people and have some case studies in different verticals and then declare that that's a vertical. So
yeah, exactly. If I rewind a little bit and bring us back, because I was at the APM Data Analytics and AI Networking event a week or so ago. And
is that
it was
the
interesting.
one Sorry, was that
Yeah.
the one at the Crown Plaza near
No, this was a
Reading?
Holiday Inn based one.
Where was it?
It was in near Euston Station in London.
Oh, okay, different one.
Yeah.
Because I got
And it was,
invited to one that is like quite. Oh, it wasn't 8 p.m. It was IC. Sorry, it was quite literally like a mile and a half from my house.
yeah, no, it's not the same one. But it was really interesting to go. I think it was their first event they put on. So it was a network interest group from the
Okay.
APM. And it was really well attended. And it's a great sign that, adoption and curiosity has certainly picked up in the data and AI space in project management. And I'm not saying this to sort of pat ourselves on the back, but they're having conversations we had about a year and a half, 2 years ago, right? But it's good that they're starting to have these conversations now because they didn't a year and a half ago. And so the curiosity has certainly picked up, which is fantastic for the industry and the sector. But it does pain me in some ways to think that, it's only now starting. But go ahead, sorry, jump in.
No. I want to let you finish.
The great thing I think is that the topics of debate were around how AI is the main topics. How is AI going to impact roles within project management? And also people understanding the safety of AI use. But as an example of how basic some of the conversations were, it was understanding how tokens work, tokenization and temperature of tokens in LLMs, etc., and how to not believe everything that AI does because look at this co-pilot image that came out of this systems diagram and it's not quite right. So again, like I say, that's the
At
level.
least they're not asking it to count the R's in strawberry.
Yes, exactly. At least they're not, which is great. But that's why I say I'm not mocking it. I'm just giving the listeners a flavor of where the profession is and that it's encouraging that these conversations are happening, even if they feel a bit old to us that have been having them for a little bit longer.
The real question that I put to you is when they'll be talking about autonomous agent configurations, what will we be talking about? Because like there are moments when it feels like we've run out of places to go after this.
I think personally, I still think there's a lot to be done. Well, there is technically as well with quantum computing.
Ooh, yeah.
I think once that sort of is once the economies of scale is there and everyone can access it and works properly, and you're like, wow, it'll be like I genuinely think it'll be like a light switch moment. It wouldn't be like the slow adoption of LLMs and trusting ChatGPT, etc. I think it'll be like, wow, this shit works.
You say
view.
slow adoption, but this is the fastest that anything has been adopted ever in the history of humanity, right?
Okay, maybe I'm just impatient.
Not even fire spread this quickly, so.
But I think quantum. The other one, genuinely, I think, and I know you have opposing views on this, I think blockchain still has a place. So
Elaborate.
interestingly, one of them, and I'm not going purely on this article, right? But Maltbook had agents. I saw one story talking about how they'd set up the right environment for trading and allowed them. No, it wasn't Maltbook. I lie. They did a test with all the various all the various bits of tech, and they allowed the agents to create an industry or a business or something and trade with each other, and they could use any currency that they wanted, and they chose crypto currency. But I also believe with what we do in projects with blockchain is we haven't used it properly yet for the likes of, administering our contracts because of a couple of areas. And, the key ones for me is the ability to not control your money flows because they're set, and the transparency, and we want to be able to do stuff with our money and our cash flows, but also it's in the too difficult box. for most people as well. But anyway, just some, as Greg would call it, a bit of a brain fart perhaps from me.
I mean, you've clearly put some reasoning behind it, right? So I'm not going to question that. I very clearly have a different opinion to you about the utility of blockchain applications, where 90% of the proposals that I've seen in my career could have just been a database, and there wasn't a clear reason why blockchain made it better. And cryptocurrencies and blockchain-based ledgers in general, I feel, had a really important part to play when they were guaranteeing anonymity, right? But governments are working really hard to stop that for quite obvious reasons, right? Like, why would you want anonymity in transferring money? Well, you don't want the government to see what you're doing. Why do you not want the government to see what you're doing? There's an ideological thing here, which I subscribe to, because like the government should mind its own business. And I'm fully aware of the fact that there's a drone flying over my house right now. But the reality is that then 80% of those transactions are money laundering and other nefarious activities, right? So for what probably I would say is a good reason, at least to them, the governments are shutting this down as an opening. So then you really ask, like, what is the application of blockchain? And like you said, smart contracts, but again, right, smart contracts forget a very important thing, which is counterparty risk. So first of all, the whole platform that smart contracts are based on could fall over, and we never consider that. You could have a smart contract that proves that you are owed some money, but the money ain't there, right? And it's kind of like, sure, it's supposed to be designed to guarantee that the money's there, but in the end, there's quite simple ways for the money to not be there, right?
Sure.
So then, and it's not that I'm not excited about the technology. The technology is really great. I haven't found in all my career like an application that I can get excited about.
And that's fair. I think it's worth exploring, because I think there's something there. But it's a good
There
debate
probably
to
is. I cannot find it, have not found it. And so until I can find something that excites me about as an application, I'm not going to be a fan of the applications.
What's that saying? The lack of evidence doesn't mean a lack of existence.
Absence
like
of evidence isn't evidence of absence, right?
Yes, something like that.
True, right? But absence of evidence is sufficient condition to not buy.
Yeah, absolutely. That too. Don't put your money in those stocks.
Yeah.
But then what about quantum? Has quantum come anywhere? I know you speak to Leonie. She's a big brain on this as well. Have we advanced any more on the quantum tech?
I mean, yes, in the sense that advancements keep coming, right? At pretty good speed. The problem with advancing quantum technology quickly is that there is a physical element to it, right? You have to produce something physical. So, and it's something physical that is way more uncertain than what producing accelerator chips would be, right? So NVIDIA moves a lot faster than quantum companies because they are making chips in a way that is sort of like known. Whereas here, we're reinventing
brand new technology, right?
Yeah,
We've never
it's
done
the
before.
same level of step from the invention of the transistor. So there's like so many things that need to click together and be invented. And, like Leonie was at Riverlane before being with us, and what they focus on is quantum error correction, and, why do you need quantum error correction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, we're going to get there. And I think quite quickly in absolute terms. I do think that we're still safe for a couple years before it goes mainstream.
Yeah, like I say, for me, and this is the fun bit, right? We never know, but I think quantum's going to be a light switch. It's going to be like,
yeah. So the moment that a technology shows up that makes quantum computing accessible at scale, right? So it means that you can compute at scale complex problems, and like, how do you even write code for that, right? there's a lot of things that need to change, right? Like going back to like how complex the field is. But that moment, like, I mean, I've got super exciting plans for when that moment comes as well, which I love the idea that all of a sudden we'd have the ability to compute virtually infinite superimposed states. It is literally the thing that I talk about the most anyway, right? Plan your future as if it has infinite versions, work out as much as possible of that space, and that's how you make your decisions. Quantum computing would really blow that methodology up. It would be amazing to see, and I can't wait.
And everyone's bank accounts and passwords are screwed.
We've got quantum safe encryption now.
Do
right?
we?
So, like,
okay,
yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
There's quite a bit of quantum safe encryption. The problem is that a lot of places don't use it, but even like new versions of HTTPS default to quantum safe encryption.
Okay.
Now,
That's new.
it's
That's
going to
new
be a
to
bit
me.
of a Y2K thing, which is if you don't fix it, you're screwed, but everyone's going to fix it because of how screwed you are if you don't fix it. And so Y2K became a non-event because of how big an event it was.
I remember everyone waiting for the clocks counting down and going, oh
Yeah.
shit, my computer's going to explode.
And they were like, only some minor problems. Why? Because everybody spent a year upgrading everything. Right? Now, Y2K has a very finite, deterministic cliff. Quantum computing doesn't, right? You don't know when the last bit that we need to be able to scale this up is going to come. So some people are going to get caught with their pants down, probably.
And I can literally hear all of our 20-year-old listeners Googling Y2K. What is that? We don't have any 20-year-old listeners. They don't want to listen to us.
No.
But I love exploring this tech because is there anything you can see that might emerge that we don't have currently?
In terms of applications?
Whether it's applications, whether it's totally new technology, things that you think, if you put this with that, that's totally new and different, just out of the woodwork, that will just appear all of a sudden.
Well, the most immediate thing that I can think of is much, much better models that you can train a lot faster. So all of AI that we have today is based on deep learning. And fundamentally, it's based on one very simple concept, which is gradient descent, right? And gradient descent is an optimization algorithm that minimizes an error over a very large number of parameters, and then you explore the space. You quite literally find the gradient on every single parameter, and then does this need to go up or go down? Does this need to go up or go down? And you do a next step. Large-scale quantum computing would allow you to look at the entire space in one go, find the optimal solution, right? It's like limitations, whatever. You don't actually all of a sudden gain infinite compute, but you get orders of magnitude scaled up overnight, which means orders of magnitude better models. Now, what does it mean to have orders of magnitude better models, right? And what does it mean to have models that can compute in femtoseconds at reasoning speeds or at reasoning depth that, goes down to like millions of iterations? That's like the crazy thing of like, what does that super intelligence look like, right? That's like almost like right out of the gate. And then what does downstream of that look like? Geez, I don't know, right? Have you seen that meme of like the year 3000, like, the futuristic city, like that? I don't know.
Maybe it means more date nights for Greg.
But yeah, I mean, like, look, make no mistake, it does not matter how much compute we are able to invent, how much AI we can come up with, and how smart it is, and how much of the infinite multiverse we are able to compute in one go. We'll always find a way to work harder, not less, right? Like, we should be, by 1980 standards, right now, working 3 hours a week.
That's crazy.
We work double what we used to work in the 80s. It's wild, right? How far we've gone in the wrong direction. And like a lot of it is just how the brain works, right? Dopamine. And what effect does that have both in the work environment, but outside, and like how something that was supposed to connect us, like social media, has created more isolation, which means that people find their community in the workplace because they can't find it anywhere else, right? Like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, we're always going to just find ways to work more. Why? Because that's how the economic loop works. We've literally set ourselves up for this. You say, like, the only way is economic growth. How do you measure economic growth? It's productivity. What is productivity? How much money per person do you make? And that number needs to go up. How does it go up? Work harder.
And this is part of the discussion. So at the APM event I was telling you about, one of the discussions was around systems thinking and how projects are part of a bigger system, which is in that organization, there's operations, there's everything else. But actually, the thing you're doing is part of a bigger system as well. So if you're doing a railway or a road, actually, there's bigger infrastructure that it all connects to. There's hospitals and schools and ports and airports and office buildings and homes and whatever else, right? But one of the discussions around AI's impact on all of this was the rhetoric that AI is potentially going to take jobs. And there was quite a passionate discussion around how the reality is that it probably won't take jobs. And this is not me saying this, I'm just kind of repeating what was discussed. And that all it is Silicon Valley owners having to sell their companies or make it feasible for investors to invest their companies, because if it's going to replace jobs, it's worth something. And so they'll get more investment. That was the line of the discussion. And I'm sharing this because not everyone was in the room, right? There was only about 100 odd people. And I found this a fascinating discussion amongst project professionals to go. And then one of the comments was, well, the UK needs to provide a more compelling offer than what Silicon Valley is saying about AI. And I was like, where is this going? What is happening? And I see you squishing your face all funny there. Come on, jump in.
No, it's a squishing out of interest, right? Like, how is that dynamic working, right? So, my opinion, right? Like, I think 100% a huge number of jobs are going to disappear, right? My whole point here is that new ones will appear because we're good at making that stuff up, right? Like,
Yep.
I've used the example of computers in the 50s where, like, literally, and I don't mean this in a misogynistic way, but this is what they did. Is like they put women in the room and said, do these calculations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those were computers.
Yeah.
Now it's a completely different thing, right? Did the unemployment rate go up because they got replaced by silicon? No, they did something else. They became physicists. I don't know, right? But
well, I was exploring this, and apologies, listeners, if I said this on one of these episodes, but it was fairly recently. I was exploring this with someone. I can't remember who it was. It was a few weeks ago, and then I went on holiday and I forgot. But if in projects, or if in general, we are allowing computers and, let's say, robotics to do more stuff for us autonomously because it can, where does the value of the human layer come in? And if it's projects, then you almost move that value from the doing to the design and planning, because if the doing is autonomous and is done by machines and computers, the flaws in your design and the flaws in your planning will show up more, right? Because it's only doing and carrying out the work that you designed and planned for it to do, right? And then the other layer then becomes potentially the assurance layer, assuring the stuff that the machines or computers are doing. But my argument on the assurance layer is you can actually get computers to assure that as well. But then you can also get computers to design and plan it as well. So it was a fascinating discussion in terms of where the value of the human in the loop goes to. The thing is, those that don't fully appreciate how much technology can do will say that the human value moves here or there. But those that do understand what technology can do will go, well, actually, no, you can get computers and other tech to do that.
Yeah, I don't know where the value of the human is going to go. I don't, right? Short term, the argument that we make, and we should edit this in, by the way, totally. If you get a minute, cut that clip in. There's a clip of Jack Dorsey where he looks like he just stepped out of spending 6 months on a boat. And they ask him, like, do you code? No. Do you do product? No. Well, then what do you do? Right? And he's like, well, I am paid because of effectively, like, my ability to have good taste in knowing what needs to be done. And I'm like, that's not a thing, man. But we should totally cut this clip in. Now. Okay, now you've seen it, right? I'm like, that's not a job, man, but we're going to invent a job for ourselves when all of the things that you can think of right now can be done by AI or AI plus a robot. We'll find something else. And I am sure of it. And we'll have less unemployment than we have today because economic growth, right?
And do you know where I can see humans being in the loop, or where the jobs end up going? Is
Podcasting.
Podcasting, where humans want humans to do the job.
Oh, yeah.
Not because technology can do it or can't do it. It's actually because I prefer a human to interact with.
Yeah, there'll be like
counter,
organic
right?
consultancy, and
Well, no, even moving it away from our sort of professional sector. Would you prefer to go to a pub or a bar and if there's a robot behind there, it's just this vending machine giving you drinks?
Or, I would love to, but that's because I'm antisocial.
Yeah, you are that. I'll give you that.
But I understand and agree with your point that most people wouldn't.
Because it's a social, environment, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah. But anyway, look, I think this was a fantastic discussion. I've certainly loved this discussion. If you are the one last listener left listening to us, thank you for sticking with us through this episode.
You'll get a free ticket to our live show.
Yeah, Al might sponsor you to come to our live show. And you might
free
even
t-shirt.
get a selfie with Alan as well.
I charge a lot for those.
Yeah, exactly. He'll sign somewhere for you on your body parts. But look, folks, thank you so much for spending the time with us. We hope you found this exciting and interesting. As always, if not, let us know. We always say we explore these topics on these episodes to give you perspective. We don't believe that we can tell the future or that we will be 100% correct, but at least we give you something to think about. So take it with a pinch of curiosity, but also a bit of cautiousness, especially when it comes to OpenClaw. But with that, we thank you once again for another episode of the Gen AI podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thanks so much.